Hi, it's Matthew McAllister here and welcome to another tutorial video hosted by CCAS Guitars in Karlsruhe. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about slurs, or you might have heard them referred to in guitar technique as legados, the Spanish term for them, or pull-offs or hammer-ons, which is often what they're referred to by students in lessons and things like that. But slurs, they exist on every instrument, and they are when you change the articulation of the notes that you're playing. So for example, in guitar, we usually use the right hand to pluck the strings, and therefore we pluck every single note. But when we slur, we actually use the left hand much more. And this is really why I love slurs and I really like practicing them. It's because it develops the left hand so much more than just always lining up each finger with an I finger or an M finger in the right hand and plucking every single note. Slurs are helping develop the strength, the flexibility and the dexterity of the left hand, and they're putting the responsibility of starting and ending notes only with the left hand, which means the left hand has to be very agile and very fit. So it's an area that I would implement a lot in the pieces of music that I'm playing, and it's also an area that I would just practice as part of my technical routines because it really helps that strength and that stamina. Another way that slurs are really important is in what they actually do for the music that you're playing. Slurs help change the emphasis of the notes that you're playing. So for example, if you're plucking everything, the rhythm is very clear and the emphasis is strong usually on every single note. It's quite hard to change the emphasis if you're plucking all the time. But if you're hammering on or pulling off, slurring these notes, it's actually much easier to try and put different types of weight on different notes, which gives that music that really lively feeling. It's not always stressing every single note. It's helping you show where the important beats are in each bar of music, each measure of music that you're playing. So slurs, they don't just have technical benefits, they have huge musical benefits, and they help shape your musical awareness of a phrase or of a passage of music that you're playing and how the rhythm relates to the emphasis and the stress that you give it. The slurs are the key to really figuring this out. So now time for some examples. So if I take my left hand and put it at fret 5 on the guitar, and most of the slurs I'm going to do just now are going to be between fret 5 and taking the fourth finger all the way up to fret 12. So a relatively small area of the guitar. In your own practice, feel free to go down to the first fret of the guitar, move around anywhere. It's good to do the slurs in as many different positions and over all the different thicknesses of strings so your hands really get used to playing in any area of the guitar. But for just now, the top E string. So I put my first finger on fret 5, and then I've got my second, third and fourth fingers lined up at fret 6, 7 and 8. Now just to show you that idea about emphasis and stress of each beat, I'm going to very simply hammer from fret 1 or finger 1 to finger 2, and then from 3 to 4. So there are two slurs happening there. There's a hammer on between fingers 1 and 2, frets 5 and 6, and then fingers 3 and 4 and fret 7 and fret 8. So very simply. Now if I was to pluck those 4 notes, I'd have to work quite hard to control the volume of each note. But with the slur naturally has, the hammer-on naturally has a slightly softer beginning to that slurred note, which helps that emphasis so you hear the uniformity of sound that happens when you pluck every single note, and then you hear the very lively human type of sound you get when you compare it with the slurred, okay? Now with the slurred, my fingers are having to work quite hard. So actually what's happening with the hammer-on is that I'm making sure to fill the next fret with the next available finger. So in this case, finger 2. So I pluck finger 1, and then I move my energy into the fingerboard to strike the next note. Now, what I'm trying to do here is not go really far away from the fingerboard to generate all that energy, to stay quite close. And it's about placement, playing very high on the fingertip and then placing that fingertip right behind the next fret with good energy in towards the fingerboard to create a good strong slur. Now, I'm going to do it with every single finger now. So now 2 to 3. then 3 to 4. Now you'll probably find as you try that exercise that fingers 1 and 2 are quite strong, fingers 2 and 3 are okay, but 3 and 4 are quite weak. And it can tend to be that when you do 3 and 4, you get no sound or a much quieter slur. So it's really good to work on that placement and that pressure going into the fingerboard to create a nice strong slur. Then put them together. So very simply, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4 in 5th position. You can do that from the E string to the B string, down to the G, onto the D string, the first of the bass, the A string. Strings are getting thicker all the time. What you might find as you play onto these bass strings, the string's harder to manipulate, it's thicker, it's made of a different material, especially when you get into the bass, so it's a little bit harder to make the slur really, really clear. So it's really worth working on those. Now these slurs, these are all ascending, they're all getting higher. You can do this in groups now. You don't just have to do 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4 or 1, 2, 3, 4. So you could start by going to that weaker finger, that 4th finger, and you could do 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 2, up and down the guitar. That's a good one for starting to focus on the weaker finger in the hand. Now these have all been hammer-ons, and the eventual conclusion of that is maybe doing 4 in a row with the all slurred. So I just strike the first note, and then I hammer 2, 3 and 4. Very nice for seeing if every finger is really even with their slurs. And you can see as I'm going across, my hand is staying very close to the fingerboard. Okay, so I'm not letting any of the fingers come too far away. They've all been ascending slurs. We'll talk about descending slurs, which are often called pull-offs. Now, sometimes these are done and the fingers end up very far away from the guitar. So I'm going to talk more about snapping off the guitar rather than pulling off the guitar. So staying very close to the string and really working the string with the left hand. And again, getting some more energy and dexterity in the hand. So if we start in a similar way, we could do 2, 1, 3, 2, and then 4, 3. So. Now it's much harder when you have an adjacent string immediately above where you're descending your slurs. So here on the top E string, you can pull off into space. So it's not so hard, okay? You're just literally bringing the finger down towards the floor and you're creating the pull off. But here when you have the adjacent string, you've got to be very careful not to do that and catch the open string above. So you've got to curtail the distance of your slur a little bit. You've got to be quite focused with it. So here, really clear. Onto the bass strings. So really the left hand is working very hard to really pluck the string. Sometimes a good thing to do just to practice the movement isn't even to use any fretted notes, to just try this. So all I'm doing is I'm plucking with the left hand an open string, because it's the same motion I need to actually do when I do the slur. I'm plucking the string. So, now we need to do slightly more adventurous combinations. It's nice to start with the 4th finger. Okay, then maybe include the hammer-ons. So I'm going to do both descending slurs and ascending slurs. So pull-offs and hammer-ons. And I might start going up the neck of the guitar. So it's 4-3, 4-2, 4-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4. Then down. Forcing the fourth finger to lead the position change. Very good for it. Take that to a bass string where it's going to be much harder. Ooh, not so good there. Okay, so maybe from the top. So it's really good now for trying to actually use the left hand, much more pressure in the left hand, much more emphasis, really starting to control what the left hand is doing, not just relying on the right hand to pluck every single note. Now, you can start to get quite creative with these combinations. And one thing that I like to do is make the slur continue a little bit like an ornament, like a trill. And that would be to do something like so this is trying multiple hammer-ons and pull-offs. This is really good for building up strength. And stamina. Now at the minute I'm always starting with finger 1. You could go straight to the difficult sections and start with 4 and 3. And you'll feel the groups getting easier as you reach fingers 1 and 2. Then try and vary the speed. One string slow, one fast. Okay, so as you can see, there are so many different possibilities and combinations you can use here in slurs. Really, it's up to you. Whichever you find your weaknesses are, your weak combinations are, start with those, work on those, and you'll find that the strength comes very quickly with this type of practice. Don't just rely on your right hand always being responsible for the striking of a note, for the creation of a note. Put that responsibility over to your left hand and let it really develop its strength. You can choose any combination you want. I often do 1-2, 2-3, 3-4, and then backwards 4-3, 3-2, 2-1, like you've just seen. But I also like those more elongated, ornament-like trills that keep lots of hammer-ons and pull-offs happening consecutively. They're really good for your strength and your stamina. But it's up to you. You can choose your patterns. You don't just have to go from fret 5 up to fret 12. You could extend that all the way down to the first position and come right up. Make sure you're practicing on the strings that have adjacent strings above, a higher string that you have to be very cautious of, very careful not to crash into or strike by accident. And remember that the purpose of slurs is not just technical, it's also massively musical. It'll help add a lot of life and a lot of interest to your articulation when you're playing pieces and you're working on specific passages. If you know where to put the slurs, you know where the strength and the weaknesses of each beat, and that's going to really unlock a lot of the mystery, especially in, say, for example, Baroque music, where you could be playing many passages of 16th notes or semiquavers over and over and over again. Say you're playing the fast movement of a Baroque sonata. Knowing where to put the slurs, knowing where to put that natural strength and weak, that nice emphasis, that's really going to help you with the music and bring the music to life. So good luck, something I practice every day. Hopefully it's something that you'll put into your practice routine and work with every day. But slurs, legados, hammer-ons, pull-offs, all of these things, get them into your practice, work them into your left hand. Good luck, and here's to a really strong left hand in the future. Bye for now.